What's up, everybody? It's Glenn and Big Jack back with another edition of our NFL season previews. This week, we're going to talk about the AFC East. Jack, it's a pleasure to have you back. What's up, my brother?
Feeling good, baby. We are on the verge of the season. It's Monday before Thursday night football. Chiefs Lions coming in hot, and then we got Bears Packers this Sunday, baby.
Wow, Chiefs Lions a pretty sweet opener. Not going to lie about that. I'm juiced for the NFL season. I'd be lying if I said anything else. But this edition, this video, we're going to talk about the AFC East preview. It's got to be one of the tougher divisions in football, Jack. I mean, you're talking about four teams where going in, I think odds wise, Patriots are at the bottom of the division, and you put them in a division like the NFC North, they might contend for a title. You're looking at a pretty tough division here with the AFC East. Let's maybe start off with some of your thoughts. What are some of your thoughts on division, Jack?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Very tough division. I think there will probably be a pretty con- consensus opinion on Buffalo still being solid. Probably a little a bit of people on both sides of the fence of whether or not they believe in the Jets, whether or not they believe in the Dolphins. But both of those teams, arguments can be made for them being pretty solid. And then the Patriots, well, I'm not too high on them. Being out here on the East Coast, I could tell you New England area is not too high on their own team right now, but they still got Bill Belichick, arguably the best coach of all time. And I think, regardless of how they look on offense, that defense is going to be stout. So, when you're a tough defense like that in this league, you're going to be a problem within the division. You got to play everyone twice. So, even if they're not, that great of a team, not necessarily contending for a playoff spot themselves, I still think they're going to be a tough W on the schedule week in and week out. Also, with this division, an interesting thing is their schedule is sort of brutal. The division is tough, like we've been alluding to. Play everyone twice. They also are playing the AFC West, which is a
Ooh,
tough division,
yeah.
and they're playing the NFC East.
Oh
So
man, that's a
that's
gauntlet.
it really is. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these teams hold up. They're certainly going to be put to the test early and often. So yeah, but it'll be a fun one to watch and follow. But whoever comes out of there is going to earn it. That's for sure.
No doubt, and that scheduling is actually super important. Before the video, I took a quick look at the over under for wins for the four teams in this division, and I think the Bills are at the top with 10.5. And I was like, man, this is a good division. I get they're going to beat up each other, but 10.5 for whoever wins this division seems like a low number. But now that you're saying they're going to have to play, you know, NFC East and the AFC West, it's starting to make a little bit more sense. I'm going to be honest, Jack. I know Bills are kind of the consensus favorite. I kind of like the Bills in a spot to not be quite as good as they've been the last couple of years. Um, I don't know. I just think some of their magic might be wearing off a little bit. Maybe getting exposed to how teams could play them. Um, I kind of like to. I think I like them to take a step back. I think they're probably still a playoff team, but I think I like the Jets as the best team in this division. I think they're a classic team that could go from worst to first. I think you put Aaron Rodgers on a team that has a great defense and a coaching staff that should get the most out of that defense. And I kind of like his. I like his chances to be a really good quarterback and them to be a really good team.
Those are very salient points, fair thoughts. I slightly disagree with your Buffalo opinion. I think they're one of those teams who, seemingly is over the hill. Everyone's kind of quieted on them. They were the hot team the past 2, 3 years now. Josh Allen was the guy. They were supposed to take the next step. They had the crazy playoff game against the Chiefs where they never got the ball in overtime. Mahomes goes down, takes care of their business. The rest is history. And then they had a little disappointing playoff run last year, getting sort of embarrassed at home against Cincinnati. But I think Buffalo bounces back with a little bit of a vengeance now that they're kind of flying under the radar, in my opinion. But we'll sort of jump into it, go through them one at a time, just make sure we touch on everything like we have been doing.
Sure.
Start at the bottom of the division with those Patriots. Like I said, still got Bill Belichick. Mac Jones coming off of a disappointing second season, kind of had that sophomore slump you talk about. He was solid as a rookie. He really was. People tend to forget it. They had that sort of quarterback controversy last year between him and Bailey Zappi. Bailey Zappi gets cut by the Patriots, so I think I might have read that they signed him to the practice squad or something.
Yeah,
But
both their
he,
quarterbacks that they cut. They cut Zappy and that rookie out of Louisville, Cunningham,
oh, did
and they
they?
got
Yeah.
both one back to the practice squad. But
Gotcha, gotcha. But yeah, either way, Mac Jones. I think they signed Mike Gesicki. They brought in Juju Smith-Schuster to replace what's his name that went to the Raiders. Uh, Good receiver, but never caught any touchdowns. Can't think of his name.
Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers. There you go. Thank you. So they made a couple signings, nothing too crazy. I do think their biggest offseason move was bringing in Bill O'Brien as their offensive coordinator from Alabama. He was there with Mac Jones when Mac Jones had a wild season. Didn't win the Heisman because it went to his teammate Devontae Smith, who he was feeding the ball. Um, and I just think it's going to be a lot different offense this year for Mac Jones. I think that bringing Bill O'Brien in will benefit them. Last year, they had the combination of Patricia and Judge were both like co-offensive coordinators. I don't even know if either of them even had the offensive coordinator title. It was just a bizarre situation. This year, I think they got a little better organized. I think Bill O'Brien will be a decent addition, and I think the offense will be better. I just don't know if they have the weapons to be good. Better than last year, but I'm not sure it's going to take them over the hump. Still going to be interesting to watch that play out between him and Mac Jones. Their over under for wins is 7.5. It opened at 7.5 minus 115. It's now 7.5 plus 115. So it's been bet under a little bit, but obviously not a ton of movement. You get a good side of the number if you want the under with some juice, or excuse me, if you want the over with some juice, if you think they can squeeze out an 8-9 season under Belichick. To win the division, it's plus 850, pretty long odds. I don't think there's much value there. I just don't see them having any chance. Their over-under is, I think it's a good number. Anytime you got that guy as your head coach, I find it tough that you wouldn't win at least 7 games. I don't know if I'm betting on them to get to 8, though. How about you?
Yeah, I think that um, I think you make valid points that their defense should still be stout, that they got good coaching, that Mac Jones was better his rookie year, and there's a chance that he recaptures some of that. But there's just nothing there to get super fired up about. I'm staying away from that number. I could see Bill getting to 8, but I could also see them being like a 6-win team too. So probably steering clear of that bet. Gun to head, I'd probably bet the under, but um,
Yeah,
I,
I sneaky kind of like the Patriots to be one of those teams who win loss record, maybe not very attractive, but I think their against the spread record could be pretty good.
I agree
I
with
think that,
that. I agree with
yeah,
that, and I think that you said earlier that nobody's looking at them as an easy W. If anybody does, they're going to regret it because they're still going to be a tough team. Um, they don't have the guys that make you think they're capable of winning this division, but they're not going to be an easy out for anybody. I don't necessarily know if I see them finishing last in the division, but I don't see a world where they win the division. That's my thought. All right, on to Miami. What are your thoughts on the Dolphins?
so depending where you shop, the odds and the Dolphins and the Jets are very similar. We usually have been kind of going in descending order from the worst to the best.
Right.
Um, but so the Dolphins, according to Bet Rivers, are plus 280 to win the division,
Okay.
and the Jets are plus 270.
Okay.
So
So
they're
neck and neck.
basically the same. I mean, like I said, depending where you're shopping, it could be flipped. But the Dolphins, you know, I'm not a big fan of Mike McDaniel. I just can't imagine how his personality comes across in a NFL locker room. He just seems like he's a surfer bro, a skater type of guy, or something. I don't know what his vibe is, but it doesn't scream football to me. Um, And they obviously had success last year before the Tua injury, and maybe they'll build upon that going into this year. They got a ton of weapons. I guess their biggest move in the offseason was probably the Jalen Ramsey
Yeah,
signing, but Jalen Ramsey's hurt. I think he's going to be out for at least 6 weeks, I think is what I saw, and maybe probably more. But then you got to keep in mind, another big thing they did was that trade at the deadline last year, bringing in Bradley Chubb. Now he'll be in the system for a whole offseason going into it. He'll be ready to go. I think he could be a difference maker for that defense. And they're just stacked on the offensive side of the ball. They really are. Tyreek Hill's a freak. Jalen Waddle's a stud. They're just another one of those teams that's, so often the case in this league where health is just such a question mark. And it kind of comes down to whether or not you're a buyer or a seller on if Tua can stay healthy.
yep,
Personally, I'm a seller. I don't think that he can.
sure.
He's not that big. He's doing all this reported, learning how to fall, this and that. But when you're getting smoked the way that you get smoked as quarterback, you have a track record of taking those kind of hits and the head injuries that he's had. I don't feel very confident with him going into this season. I do like that they brought in Mike White as a backup.
Sure.
I think he proved himself to be a pretty viable backup with the Jets. Had some really nice games for them. So I think they could be okay, even if Tua has to miss a game here or there. But I'm not in love with this Miami team the way that others might be. I think they take a little bit of a step back this year. I think a guy like Mike McDaniel, he's got a ton of weapons, but I think after 1 year tape out there on him, I think some teams will make adjustments. And I just don't know if I could believe in him and being that great of a coach. And I do not love the Dolphins this year. I think that they're a team that takes a big step back. I don't buy the hype for them at all. Their over/under wins is 9.5 at -110. It opened 9.5 plus 110, so it's moved, barely. I guess people have been playing the over enough to flip the juice on it. Um, like I always say in these, I'm not a futures guy, so I'm not gonna 100% say I'm playing it, but I would take the under there. I think it's a 9-8 team. I could see them being 8-9. I think they're right there. I don't see them being a 10-7 football team, so I kind of like that under.
I like the under too, Jack. I do. I think that their tandem of receivers, if two is healthy, if this Devin A. Chain kid they drafted out of the backfield, he could be a weapon there. They got Mostert. I think they got some weapons on offense. I think their defense isn't very good. I actually didn't know about that Jalen Ramsey situation where he's going to be out for 6 weeks. I know they try to beef up their secondary with him, and I think their first draft pick was a cornerback too. But um, it's kind of another team where, kind of like what I said with the Bills, I just and maybe I'll backstep a little bit what I said the Bills, but I could definitely see the Dolphins taking a step back from what they were, especially like that first half of the season last year, where they were like one of the hot teams. I think the second half of last year was a little bit more reality of what they are. Obviously, you throw the one asterisk in there with the two head injury situation, but um, yeah, I think at best they're like a 9-8 team. I could see them. I could see them coming in last in this division.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I could say they'll be worse than the Patriots, but if anyone would be, I think it would be the Dolphins. We'll move
For
it right
sure.
along to the Jets. Like I said, the Jets are just north of where the Dolphins are at, according to Bet Rivers. They're plus 270 to win the division, and their over under is the exact same. It's 9.5, just like the Dolphins is. It's juiced a little more. It's -120 over 9.5 as opposed to -110. Obviously, their offseason was all about Rodgers. Brought in Aaron Rodgers, drafted Zach Wilson just 2 years ago. He's going to be the backup. He's still in town, but they're moving on, bringing in Rodgers, the veteran future Hall of Famer, hoping that he's still got some juice in the tank. I think he does. I think that last year, as a Bears fan, I'm thrilled. He's out of the NFC North and off the Packers. Couldn't be happier. I think last year he was just hurt. He had a thumb injury on his throwing hand. It's got to be tough to play quarterback when your thumb's fucked up. I don't know how serious it was. He wasn't really making excuses about it, but I think that certainly had to play a factor in his performance last year. The previous 2 years, he was coming off back-to-back MVPs. So I think he's still got it in him to be that elite quarterback. I could very easily see him doing that again this year, being rejuvenated in New York. Brought in all his guys. They got in Alan Lazard. They brought in Randall Cobb. They signed Dalvin Cook from the Vikings to be a combo with Brees Hall coming off that ACL injury. So they got a really solid backfield for him, which he's accustomed to. He had a great backfield in Green Bay too with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. So, that's something that he'll be comfortable with and be able to build upon. But the only question mark with that offense is the offensive line.
Yeah.
It seems to be a little helter skelter. I'm not sure how confident they are in it. There was those rumors that they were trying to make moves for Bakhtiari and pick up some other people here or there. So they're kind of going into the season with what they got. I think Rodgers is probably good enough at this point in his career and gets rid of it well enough where he'll be okay. But you don't like, hearing that the offensive line is going to be a question mark heading into the season. That's the only thing that worries me about this team. They have the reigning offensive rookie of the year in Garrett Wilson, reigning defensive rookie of the year in Sauce Gardner. They got Quinnen Williams on the defensive line. That defense is going to be humming. I don't know about Salah as a head coach, but he knows how to run a defense. I think he probably just stays out of the way, just lets his offensive guys do their thing. And I think that defense is going to be really good again. And with the Rodgers coming in, I see them being a pretty damn good football team. Um, I guess I probably lean to their over for wins at that minus 120 juice if I had to pick a side. I could see them. I feel like the Jets for me are very like boom or bust. In my eyes, I see the Jets being legitimate Super Bowl contender, like 11-6, 12-5, got a chance to win the Super Bowl. Or I could see them being like last year's Raiders, where everyone was talking about them heading into the season, and they just kind of sucked. So I don't think they're going to be like a middling team that's like 9-8 or 8-9. I think they're either 11 wins or more, or they're like 7 or less. So I lean
Interesting.
towards them being pretty good, and I think I would take that over if I was to bet anything on them.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it earlier in the video. I think they're going to be good, man. And I'm looking at their schedule right now. The way it sets up is actually kind of beautiful for them. They have a 6 week gauntlet
The start is
to
tough,
start the
yeah.
season, but then they hit that bye week, week 7, and then they could like make a run after that. So if they even just could figure out a way to start like 3-3, get to that bye week, and then rattle off a bunch of wins, I mean, I would for sure lean the over. I think there's juice on it though. I think it's like minus 120 or something like that. But
Yeah.
um, I think they're going to be good. I think it's going to be classic, like Green Bay, like from probably just past our college days. Maybe even you want to say college days where Rodgers gets a lot of the love and like rightfully so. He's a good quarterback, but the true story is the defense is good. That they can run the ball, like, and then he just does enough, and then like I say he does enough, but then at the end of the game, like his numbers are really good. The O line worries everybody, no doubt, and a bad O line always worries people. But I think they got enough on defense, enough weapons to where um, they'll score points. They'll score points, and then that defense will do their job. I like them to win the division. I see them not on the same level as Cincinnati or Kansas City, but really fucking close. Really close.
Hey, that's a ballsy pick. I mean, plus 270 is some pretty solid juice too. I think you take that to the bank. Do you think they're going to win it? I like what you're able to get on that odds wise. I do think they're the best value in the division. I personally wouldn't do it because, as we're about to talk about with the Bills, um, I love the Bills this year.
Okay.
I think they're going to win the division. But yeah, getting close to plus 300, depending where you're looking. That's pretty solid value on a Jets team that could certainly make a run. The Bills, they're plus 120 to win the division, so you're still getting better than even money. Um, I love that.
Okay.
I there's actually my two. I haven't given any official futures plays as of yet in all these videos. There's been some leans here or there that we've kind of bantered on. I'm going to give two plays that both fall under the Bills.
Okay.
I would take the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills to win the division at plus 120,
Okay.
and I'm going to take Josh Allen to win the MVP at plus 800.
Okay.
Um, I love this team this year. I know you said you kind of came into the start of the video out the gate saying how you think the Bills are going to take a step back. You think their shine is sort of worn off a little bit. But I love this team this year. I think they have a big bounce back year. There's a little drama with Stephon Diggs still,
Yep.
which I think that's just his personality. I'm not too concerned about that. But I just think that they got Von Miller's on the pup list, so he's probably going to miss the first. I think that means he has to miss the first 4 games
Yeah.
at least.
Yep.
But this defense was good, man, with Von Miller. He got hurt. Everything kind of changed. They weren't really able to. I mean, we know how it is in Chicago watching the Bears. Doesn't matter how good your secondary is, you can't get to the quarterback if he's got, more than 3-4 seconds back there. It's the NFL. I don't care how bad your quarterback is. He's going to find somebody eventually. You can't cover all day. So the Bills were just excellent because they got to the quarterback and, they were good enough in that back end where, they could cover guys. But if you can't get to them, over time, that defense sort of wore down. I think Sean McDermott's going to be out for a little bit of redemption. I think, he's a defensive guy. Their defense has been trashed after last year. I think he bounces back. They got some guys coming off the injury. Like I said, Von Miller, Micah Hyde coming back. Oddly enough, the guy who DeMar Hamlin was starting for. He'll be back. They brought in Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd, maybe not great individually. We saw that in Chicago, but he also was great in that playoff run with the Rams when he was playing alongside Aaron Donald. I think he could be similar playing, and he was playing alongside Von Miller as well in with the Rams when Von Miller was with them too. So I think that he could be a good pairing with Von Miller. I think that pass rush is going to be that much better this year once everyone's healthy. And like I said, I just kind of like that. I like teams where it's kind of quiet around them. A lot of times, people don't live up to the hype. There's all these hot teams in the off season, and it just kind of, fades during the regular season. I think the Bills are one of those teams under the radar. I think they like that they're under the radar. They're just kind of going about their business. All anyone's really talking about with them is DeMar Hamlin, who, to be frank, if he doesn't have the incredible story, he's probably not even on this roster. But that's all anyone wants to talk about when it comes to the Bills, and I think they're totally fine with that. They're just going to keep doing their thing, and I love Josh Allen to go crazy this year. I love them to win the division. Their over/under wins is 10.5. It's minus 150. Not worth betting, in my opinion. I'm not going to get taxed that heavy, but I think they go. I think they're winning at least 11, 12 games at a minimum. I think Josh Allen wins the MVP. He's a second favorite, so not crazy long odds, still plus 800. But I just think this is the year for him where it's been talked about in the past, and now it's kind of quiet, and I think he gets it done. Josh Allen to win the MVP, Bills to win the division. Um, I, you know, I sneaky kind of like them to make their Super Bowl run this year.
I respect it. Any thoughts on Leslie Frazier stepping away like he is? It's a real weird scenario they got with that dynamic where he's just deciding to take a season off and he's hoping that an owner next year is going to give him a head coaching job. Interesting scenario out of Leslie Frazier. But, I might be stepping back my stance here on the Bills. I'm looking at last year's standings and all the teams that you think are good that like you would say are probably the top 5 teams. Their point differentials last year were just ridiculous, and the Bills are no different. They plus 169 on the point differential, top tier defense, top tier offense. I don't know why in my head I see them taking a little bit of a step back, but I'm probably wrong. They did do a couple nice things to solidify their offensive line. One guy they added through the draft, one guy they added in free agency. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the Stephon Diggs thing. I think that is just kind of who he is. He got like the highest contract ever, like a year or two ago, I think. So I don't know what he's so upset about. A lot of buzz around that tight end they drafted too, the kid out of Utah, Dalton Kincaid. He might be a nice weapon for them. You're probably right. They're probably, I mean, they're the favorites for a reason. But maybe I'm a sucker seeing all the New York Jets stuff with Hard Knocks, but I just think there's something about them where their defense is going to be good and Rodgers is going to give them a dynamic they haven't had in years. But um, Bills are good, I guess.
No, I do think they're. I think two. I think two. You know, we touched on how difficult the schedule is for
Yeah.
this division, but I do think the Bills and Jets are both playoff teams. I think the Dolphins fade a bit harder than most people probably do, and I think the Patriots probably are the team that a lot of people think that they are. You know,
Yeah.
that 6 to 8 win team.
Yeah. No doubt.
But yeah, I love the Bills this year. I really do. I think they're the class of the division. Um, I, you know, maybe even would pick them to go to the Super Bowl. So
What's their Super Bowl odds right now? Right now, NFL
I don't know.
champion. Oh, NFL champion futures. They're the third favorite, plus 800 as well. So you get a couple future odds with Allen MVP and Bills Super Bowl champions at plus 800. Only
Yeah, I don't know.
third only behind Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd throw anything on that, but yeah, I am. I'm gonna be on Josh Allen MVP, and I'm gonna be on the Bills to win the division. Those are my two future plays that I have locked at the moment.
This division's got three teams in the top 10 for Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's pretty wild. All right, that's the AFC East. Tough division. It seems like the two of us think that the Jets and the Bills are probably the two best teams in this division. It seems like we both think that while the Patriots and the Dolphins are no easy wins, that they're a step behind the top two. But um, football's almost back, baby, almost back. But all right, Jack, we'll be back with a NFC East preview video next. So if you guys are new here, like and subscribe, and we'll be back with a new video here soon.
Bears.